You know, if you're a developer, you have definitely hit this crossroad. Your app needs some data, but what's the best way to go get it? Today we're going to break down two really fundamental strategies, lazy loading and eager loading, to help you figure out which one is the right tool for your specific job.
So here's the big question. When your application needs information, let's say a list of customers and all of their past orders, do you fetch everything in one massive trip to the database? Or do you just grab the customer list first and then go back for the orders only if you actually need them? It seems like such a small decision, right? But trust me, it can have a huge impact on your app's performance.
To make this super clear, let's use an analogy that has nothing to do with code. Let's think about it like packing for a vacation. The way you pack your suitcase is actually a lot like how your application can fetch its data. Are you the kind of person who plans for every single possibility, or do you just pack light and figure you'll grab what you need when you get there? This really breaks down into two main styles, doesn't it? On one side, you have the overpacker. This is the person who brings everything they could possibly need, just in case. And on the other side, you've got the minimalist, who packs only the absolute essentials and just assumes they can pick up anything else along the way. And believe it or not, these two travelers are basically perfect stand-ins for our two data fetching strategies.
All right, first up, let's talk about our minimalist. This is the lazy loading strategy. They travel light, they travel fast, and they only worry about getting new things when the need actually pops up. So what does this actually mean in code? Well, lazy loading is a strategy where your application fetches related data, like that customer's orders, only at the exact moment it's first needed. So you ask for a customer, you get just the customer. Simple. Then, maybe a few moments later, when you actually try to access that customer's orders, that's the moment the application goes back to the database to get them. It's done on demand.
So what's the catch? Well, the huge win for lazy loading is a faster initial startup. Your app feels really snappy because it isn't getting bogged down fetching a bunch of data you might not even use. But the downside? Oh, it's a big one. You can end up making tons of small individual trips to the database, which can lead to this massive performance bottleneck, something we call the N+1 problem.
Yeah, this N+1 problem? It's kind of the monster hiding in the closet for lazy loading. It's this classic performance trap that can sneak right into your code and just slow everything down to a crawl. So what is it exactly?
Okay, here's how it goes down. You make one query, that's the one, to get, let's say, a list of 100 customers. Then, as your code loops through that list to display each customer's orders, it triggers a brand new database query for every single one of those 100 customers. That's the N. So you end up with your one initial query, plus 100 more, for a grand total of 101 trips to the database instead of just one or two. That's, not efficient.
And this is what it looks like in the code. That first line, context.customers.toList, that's your one query. It gets the list of customers. But the second you try to access the .orders property on any of those customers, you trigger another query. Now imagine doing that inside a loop for all your customers, and boom, you've just unleashed the N+1 problem. Okay, so now let's meet our other traveler, the overpacker. This is the eager loading strategy, and it is all about preparation. It's about getting everything you could possibly need in one single, well-planned trip.
Eager loading is pretty much the exact opposite of lazy loading. With this strategy, you load the main data and all of its related data at the same time, all in one consolidated database query. You ask for customers and their orders, you get customers and their orders. Everything comes back at once. No follow-up trips needed.
The trade-offs here are basically a mirror image of lazy loading. The huge advantage is that you totally avoid the N+1 problem by keeping your database trips to a bare minimum. But the downside? Well, your initial load time might be a bit slower, because you're fetching a potentially large chunk of data, and some of it you might not even end up using. It's like you've packed for rain, but it turns out to be sunny all week.
And here's how you actually do it. The magic word here is .include. That little method is an explicit instruction. It tells the system, hey, when you go get the customers, make sure you also grab all of their orders in the very same query. It's a direct command to be prepared to pack everything at once.
So we've got our minimalists and our overpacker, our lazy and our eager strategies. Let's put them head to head and see how they really stack up against each other.
Okay, let's just break it down nice and simple. For that initial load speed, lazy loading is the clear winner. It's fast. But, and this is a big but, when it comes to database trips, it can be really inefficient, with potentially tons of queries. Eager loading is the complete reverse.
The initial load can be a little slower, but it keeps those database trips to an absolute minimum, usually just one. So the choice really comes down to your use case. Go with lazy when you might need the data, and choose eager when you know you're going to need it.
So, how do you actually make the call? Which packing style is right for your application's next big chip to the database? Let's just walk through a really simple decision-making process. It really just boils down to these 3 steps. First, analyze your needs. Seriously, look at your UI. If you're building a page that shows customers and their most recent order right there on the screen, you will always need that order data. Second, prioritize performance. Is a lightning-fast initial page load the absolute top priority, even if clicking something causes a tiny delay later? And finally, you just make the call based on those answers. If the data is always needed, eager loading is almost always the right choice. If it's only needed sometimes, lazy loading can be a fantastic way to keep things feeling fast right at the start.
So the most important point is this. Anyone who tells you that one of these strategies is always better than the other is just plain wrong. There is no silver bullet here. The sign of a great developer is knowing which tool to use for which job. The right choice is always contextual, it's strategic, and it depends entirely on what your application and your users need in that specific moment.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought for you to take with you. Go take a look at your own projects. Are you overpacking when you could be a minimalist? Or are you making dozens of tiny, inefficient trips to the database when one big one would do the trick? Because thinking about whether your code is being lazy or eager in the right way, that's the key to building truly performant, truly efficient applications.